Yes. Good, how are you?
Good. So just before we get started, just to let you know that we do record our consultations. It's on the form and everything, but we like to just give you like another heads up before we start the actual consultation. So just that. But go ahead. I read a bit of your form yesterday. I forget your dog's name. I know it's a Shiba, correct? A Shiba, is it a Shiba mix?
He's a total mix. So he's a rescue. So we know his mom was a Shiba. They were both left at a shelter. And the other half of him, we have no idea. But he definitely has some Shiba traits.
Got
They
it.
said poodle, but it's unconfirmed.
I see. Okay. But yeah, just go ahead and just fill me in with any important information you think I should know about. As you speak, I'll take notes as you go along, and then after that, we will go from there. Okay.
Sounds
Your
good.
notes.
That's let's see. So we got Ben in October. We were told that he was about a year old. So he's probably a year and a half is our best guess. And he had never been on a walk before, and he had never been like in an apartment with stairs or in a city with sidewalks. He lived in the country at a foster house with a bunch of other dogs. So it took him a while, but he's really acclimated. He's a super duper friendly dog. He loves to play and loves other dogs. So we make sure he goes to doggy daycare once or twice a week.
Okay.
We have not been able to get him to really respond to any commands. We can call his name, and it's a toss-up whether or not he decides to respond. He likes everything to be a game. So when it's time to like leave the house, I'll have my leash in the hand, and he's been bothering me to leave. Like he's been scratching at the door. He will then run around the house. So it takes a very long time until he'll allow you to approach him and put a leash on him. So currently I just stand by the door and stare at the door until he obeys. Because if I just run after him, it becomes a longer game.
Yeah. Okay.
But and he also wants to play with every dog on every walk. So he will go into a deep bow and just lay down on the sidewalk until they come to him, which is very silly. It's cute, but it's not helpful.
Of course. Okay. Anything else I should know about Ben?
It's tough to take him to the vet or get him to take medicine. He really doesn't like to have his paws or mouth touched at all. And like once he ate pills and I was trying to get him to induce vomiting, and I could not get near his mouth with like the hydrogen peroxide. He's
fine.
He was fine afterwards, but he's just. And then like the vet, he like expressed his anal glands at the vet. He really freaked out when they were like looking at his paw the other day. So he's just usually likes being pet, but highly protective of his paws and his mouth.
Got it. And then how does that look? Is he more like squirmy, or is he being defensive and being mouthy, or
he'll flippity flop like a fish is the best way I can put it. Like he's just very hard to, like if he does not want to be handled or touched, like he will wiggle beyond belief. And he's very strong. He's like, you can like see his muscle definition. It's a little silly.
Okay.
For like bathing him, we figured out if we can hold him by the harness in the shower so his feet are not touching the ground, that's really the only way we can like wash him. And even there, he'll like kick wildly, so he'll like scratch me unintentionally, but that was the only way we could like get him
yeah I mean, it's the concern is that he's going to hurt himself or hurt other people and it's not, he's just trying to get away.
He doesn't bite or anything intentionally.
No. Nope. And he won't even nibble. And he's great with the cats, and the cats are pretty terrorizing to him. But, you know, the most he'll do is just to kind of stand and gently bark at them and just stare at them.
Got it.
He'll
Cool.
follow them around sometimes.
But he is a very
Not
gentle.
violent.
Yeah.
Cool.
They'll kind of have standoffs in the hallway about who can get past.
Yeah.
But the cats will swat him, but that's about as much physical as they get.
Okay. Cool. So far, it sounds like, you're wanting a recall, help with a little help with the walking on the leash outside, and kind of, having more of a, when we're in a moment of seriousness and we're trying to be serious here. It's not always going to be a game like with the leash and stuff like that, right? So more control, more discipline, just like when you're getting ready and stuff like that. And then with the pause and the bathing and all that stuff, like on list of priorities, where would you like rank that? Because it sounds like recall. I mean, recall is obviously the most important.
That's number one. Yeah.
So with the pause, we can work on that. Is that like a top priority for you guys, or how do you guys view that?
No, I mean, I think what we ended up doing was giving him a bit of a sedative when he had to get his nails trimmed.
Oh, okay.
So that worked.
Okay.
And the groomer was really great as far as
Okay.
she like held him from above and made him feel like totally surrounded. So that worked, and it wasn't feeling the sedative was helpful. But I feel like we've got some workarounds for that, and that doesn't happen every day.
I see. Perfect. Okay, perfect. It's good to hear. It's good that he's got, a groomer that would, follow through and everything like that. Because sometimes groomers just like, nope, can't do it, and they just turn away the dog, which makes sense. If you're unable to, if you don't have that experience, it's probably unsafe to just see what's going to happen, right? So that's good. You guys have a groomer there. Anything else I should know about Ben, or any other goals you have with Ben?
Does like if we turn our back, he will destroy anything. So he will like hop up on the dining room table and take all the plates down and run with all the forks in his mouth. Like he's, like if we take groceries in the house, like we have to be really careful because he'll just go and steal them and just run away, like grab shampoo and just run and make a huge mess. And it's kind of into everything.
Does he?
Worse.
Sorry,
I was just gonna say it's get worse when he's anxious too. Like when my wife goes out of town, he really will get into stuff more than usual.
I see. You guys try the kennel with him, the crate?
Yeah, we were told he was crate trained when we got him. What we later learned is that they just kind of put him in a garage in a crate at night. And this is in Michigan, it's kind of cold. And I think he just cried the whole night. And so when we tried here, we were just not successful because he does like, I mean, the Shiba scream is real. So he just does like the Mariah Carey, like higher than high. And we have neighbors. So
we worked a little bit to try to, just associate the crate with treats, but we have not. It's not like he's not substantially trained to do it yet.
No, he is not at all trained to do that. We're open to it. I don't know if we've waited to.
Nice to have thing.
Yeah.
Got it. Has he ever been left home alone before? And how does he do?
He does fine when he's home alone. He mainly just like looks out the window waiting for us or sleeps. It's if it's like when I'm out of the house and you're trying to like get a work call done in the back of the house and you've got both cats with you, he will like try to get in the room and just doesn't. He's anxious because I guess
he'll come up to
we're
me
not
and
there.
Do that kind of like the Shiba scream at me when mom is gone, and just want constant like kind of attention and reassurance.
Okay.
If-
Have you
but
ever?
like if we,
Hello.
Yeah, we're here.
What were you saying? Sorry, it was cutting in and out.
oh, I was just saying, he really wants attention and reassurance, like when Mary Claire is out of the house, if I'm the only one here. And usually the cats want to be with me too, if I'm the only one around. So, and that will kind of instigate conflict between them.
Okay, got it. Have you ever, when you were crate training him and everything, did you ever put him in the crate when you guys were home with him, or was he only in the crate when you left?
We only had him in the crate while we were here.
Okay.
And I even like slept next to the crate one
Okay.
night.
And
And that went okay because I
well.
was in the room. But and he, he is food motivated, but he has a hard time taking a treat from anybody's hand. Like you kind of have to throw it. So that's
We throw like mozzarella stick pieces in the crate to try to get him to associate it. He's gone in there voluntarily like once or twice just on his own, but it's still, if you put him in there,
it's in our living room. And it's just like one wall away from our bedroom where we would be sleeping like at night. So I think he can like hear us and all that too. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It sounds like, most dogs have that same issue where it's, it's when they go in the crate, it's not issues that staying in their part where like dogs will struggle. Does he try breaking out or is he just vocal?
Oh, he'll definitely like gently try to break out. Like he'll like rub his nose again. I mean, he's not that physical.
He'll scratch, like if you try to keep him out of somewhere he wants to go, he'll kind of just scrabble his paws against the door.
Okay. Okay.
He might give up eventually, but it takes a while.
Got it. Anything else?
Doesn't, if we're he's a little weird with new people. He'll bark at them a lot.
Outside or inside?
Inside. Sometimes outside, but if the person has a dog, great. If the person does not have a dog, oh, there he goes. So, but if like the weird thing is like I'll go out in the evenings and it's dark and there's sometimes random people standing in front of buildings on a phone just like doing nothing but talking, and he does not like that. If someone is like walking and going to their car or walking a dog, fine, but if just a person is just standing there, he's very bothered by that. So
okay, how does he is that the only scenario where he will bark at a person outside?
Sometimes if someone, like, I don't really let people come up and pet him because I don't know how he'll truly react, especially he's very cute, so children want to pet him, and if he doesn't seem really into it, I say no. So he's maybe been pet like twice, but he'll seem a little like nervous, like his tail isn't wagging, it's a little down, so I'm like, nope, we're not doing that. So I haven't really let that whole scenario play out.
Okay, so it seems like when people are confronting him, he's uneasy. But if people are just walking next to him and not he and then in the home, how does that look when people come over?
He'll just bark a lot at them and kind of follow them around, and he'll get you like our friend Terry came for the weekend 2 weeks ago, and she stayed with us, and so he barked at her for the first like 5 minutes she was here, and then he kind of like got cool and was like okay with being pet and all that sort of stuff, and then she left to go do something for an hour and came back in the room, and he was just like never seen her before, and that happened like throughout that weekend. So I don't know if that's bad. And sometimes even like well, Twyla wears makeup. And sometimes when Twyla just goes and does hair and makeup and come out, he's like bark, 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 bark.
I see. If you have guests come over and let's say they sit down on the couch and not Bud, Ben has settled. Have you ever seen him bark when, you know, the person gets up, claps, laughs, or anything else that might trigger him to bark in those moments? Or
No.
okay. So it sounds like from everything we're gathering, you know, with dog personalities and stuff like that, you know, we have a nervous dog, anxious dog, fearful, aggressive, confident, all these different like terms and like labels for dogs, right? But we never always have like, it's never just a nervous dog, right? We look at everything, right? Environmentally, Ben could be very confident, right? But with people, he could be nervous, and the nervousness could be very low, right? And then the anxiety can be a little higher than the nervousness, right? So it sounds like he has a little bit of nervousness. How I know that is when someone leaves and comes back in, he's thrown off. He's not expecting that, right? So that's very that's just a sign of a nervous dog, right? Other dogs who are more nervous, if you're walking down the street and someone says, "Oh, cute dog," they will trigger and they will bark. If you know someone comes in the home, they're able to settle, but the moment someone laughs, gets up, or does something that's just all of a sudden, it will trigger them again because a nervous dog doesn't like changes, sudden changes, right? So the picture is we're all here, we're all together, person leaves. Okay, that was kind of weird. Oh, the picture's changing again, the person's coming back in, then they trigger, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes total sense. Yeah.
And you have the anxiety as well. Anxiety looks like it starts to kick in when he gets stressed. So that is a stress response. He gets anxious. And then you see like the pacing, the vocalization, and all that stuff, right? So that's more like behavior. It's like behavioral stuff I'm noticing. You know, Shibas are more of a primal dog breed, right? They're very
Yep.
far from like the original dog, like a normal dog, right? We have worked with Shibas in the past. We're aware of how vocal they can be, right? So it's nothing new to us. But so far, you know, when it comes to obedience and stuff like that, sometimes you can get like a protesty Shiba. And I think the recent Shiba we had, it was Nolan. He was like 11 years old, right? So they were having a baby and stuff like that. So we're just layering some obedience. He did great. The Shiba before him did great. We had an Akita recently. He did great. And then there was one Shiba who was very vocal. Like the moment least tension would get on the neck, boom, start screaming, right? So we had to work the dog through that and everything like that, kind of teaching them that, hey, it's nothing to freak out about. We also had a Husky who was kind of same situation, never had a leash on his neck, never walked, and was more of like a feral dog, right? So they started training, and I'm pretty sure, are you guys aware we do e-collar training, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So that dog, we couldn't jump straight to e-collar, right? Because that's a very unique form of pressure, right? So we had to do a lot more basic stuff so that we can build to that, right? Again, all dogs are different, but this dog specifically needed more foundation before we jump to that sort of tool there for him. But having and how to make progress with the separation anxiety, even if you don't, you know, if you don't decide to train with us, something I do recommend is try your best to do the crate training stuff when you're home, and you can keep the kennel next to you. It doesn't matter where the kennel's at. You can start easy for him, then slowly keep the kennel moving, and the goal will be that you guys are home with the kennel in another room. Okay, it is really difficult, as you can see, for dogs to be in the kennel while you're home. That's more difficult than when you leave. Okay, because they're wondering, you're home, why am I in the kennel, right? So we told all of our COVID clients, you know, how does a regular job look for you? Oh, we're going to the office, you know, 7 hours a day. well, practice crate training your dog for that amount of time, so that when we do go back to normal stuff, it's very flowing, and it should be an easy transition there. Does that make sense? Cool.
Sorry, he found a box of Girl Scout cookies. So.
The crate, I've had owners tell me, they were trying to crate train their dog, and then same thing, neighbors upstairs, downstairs, left and right, everywhere, right? So they tried a playpen, like a little gated area for their dog, and their dog did great, right? Usually,
yeah, we unfortunately we can't even do like gates that are less than 6 feet, because he can leap like a horse. Like
yes.
we couldn't even. We tried to like do a gate at the end of the hall, and
just like a regular baby gate, like 3 feet high or something.
Took him like 2 seconds, and he was like, "Oh, I got this."
Yeah. But the client did that, it worked for them. And as far as what we want to kind of work on, we would have rather, as a trainer, we want to work on the problem, right? A playpen would have been a band-aid. Getting rid of the crate is more like you're not addressing the problem, you're just finding, like, it's a different solution, right? But the owner was happy because the dog was better in the playpen than the crate. Same thing here. Ben is not destructive or vocal when he's free roaming. And when you guys are not at home, he's great. He's not destroying anything or being vocal. It's more of like he gets destructive when he gets stressed or anxious, right? Because the frustration and the anxiety has to go somewhere, right? Anxiety, an anxious dog always wants to move, right? So I don't know if you've ever seen those videos where like they're usually called like soldier or owner goes to the army for so and so years and comes back to their dog, right? They come back, they see the dog, and the first thing usually the dogs do is they go grab a toy and they come back and they're just like squeezing it and they're just getting all wiggly, right? That dog is releasing its excitement and excited energy on the toy, right? Because he's probably knowing like I can't jump on this person, but I'm so excited, it has to come out, right? Same thing for humans, we have those stress balls, right? They help us kind of like relax. The same thing there, where it's nothing nothing personal. It's just it happens because they're just like, I need to let it out somehow, right? The goal would be when you're anxious, when you're all stressed out, that there are other healthier ways to kind of deal with that, right? Same thing for our children. If we're upset, it can sometimes be inappropriate to just burst out and start crying and going crazy, right? You need healthy habits and how to handle when you're sad or upset or anything like that. Or we're not letting children put holes in the wall or anything like that, right? There are other ways to let us know that you're upset or angry. Same thing with the dogs. Does that make sense so far?
Yep, that makes sense.
Cool. So as far as when we're walking him and everything, what's the tool you have on him when you're taking him out for walks? So it's a harness, gentle leader, collar, prong collar, slip leash.
So he has a harness and a, what is that thing called? Martindale collar.
Okay. And then you're using the harness for walks or the martingale?
We were told, because Shibas are escape artists, to use both. So we have the splitter.
Got it. Okay. So as far as for walking, the only issue you have is he just lays in front of dogs, correct? For dogs?
Well, he gets overexcited. So if he sees another dog, he wants to like run across the street to them, but somehow that manifests for him by just like laying down and being like super play posed to be like, play with me. And so everything kind of stops. Like I can't, unless I like pick him up, like he's gonna be there. Okay. So that's not the end of the world. He's this way and that way, and he's not as bad, but he will wrap that leash around you if given the opportunity.
I see.
So mild to moderate puller on the leash too. Like he will sometimes want to get ahead. He basically just wants to react to like everything when we're out walking him. Like he wants to react to other dogs and, you know, check out every tree and
Yeah, he's the dog that will pee on 20 things while you're out and about. Like and we live in an area, we're in Hyde Park, where 1 million dogs live on our street. For the most part, they're friendly. But yeah, there's a lot of scents everywhere.
Got it. Okay. So it sounds like he's just overstimulated on your walks. Too many options. He doesn't know what to do, so he's just kind of going all over the place, right?
Yeah, and sometimes, you know, if there is someone, there's like a makeshift dog park in the playground by our house, and if people are there, we will go and play and run with him. And so that happens on some walks, and that happens on not on some walks. So there's a little guy he likes to play with in the morning, and then there's like a 10:30 night crew on the weekends that goes. And it's great. He gets a lot of energy out because this guy can run really fast. But it's not always possible, you know, to go there. And we almost always walk by it. So that I think he's pulling because he wants to go there, right? Don't you think?
oh yeah.
Cool.
And he's generally, you know, on the days when we can get him a lot of exercise, when we can either take him to the dog park or when he's at doggy daycare, you know, he's generally pretty well behaved after that if we've tired him out already.
Yeah.
I see. Okay. So yeah, on the walks, it sounds like, and I'll speak about later how important, even though like there's not, you know, it seems like minor things on the walk. I'll explain why it does kind of take over. It's like it's bigger than what it seems, right? So right now it seems like he's just overstimulated, doesn't know what to do, and he's just like all these options for me. What do I do? Where do I go? What's over here? There's a dog there. He's kind of just he keeps going, right? He doesn't know how to stop, right? So physically he's getting exercise, but mentally he's just going. Nothing's really tiring him out mentally, right? So when it comes to walking dogs and stuff like that, harness is the tool that we tend to try to avoid. Harnesses, even though it's, you know, around the whole dog's body, it makes you think you have most control because you're controlling the whole, like the body, the main, you know, chest area, right? However, for communication purposes and everything, it can promote pulling and give you less control because you're controlling the strongest part of the dog, the chest area, right? So when he goes to that laying down and you're pulling him, he's not going to move, right? He's going to stay there because dogs also have what's called opposition reflex. Are you guys familiar with that term?
Yep. I'm not. Are you?
So basically when you apply pressure in a certain direction, he wants to go opposite, right? So if he wants to go to the park and you turn around and you pull, he's going to want to go even more intensely that direction, right? If he's laying down and trying to pull him away, you're going to start to see him lean away from the pressure, right? That's just like a natural response some dogs have. Some dogs, their opposition reflex is a lot more stronger than other dogs. Some dogs have a lighter way to when they're communicating that way, right? However, harnesses activate that very easily, right? So harnesses are used for huskies to pull sleds, right? We need them to pull. Harnesses are also used for our protection training dogs. So when we have the guy across with the bite suit and I have my dog in a harness, I'm amping him up and I let him pull me a little bit, but then I pull back and then he gets frustrated when that happens. So I'm creating the aggression. And once I see the appropriate amount of aggression, I let go and he goes and bites the guy. Right. So for communication purposes, we will want to communicate to him, you know, hey, we don't want you to pull, we don't want you to do this, we want you to do something else, right? And sometimes clients will, you know, it's the same thing with the flat collars, right? Even if the dog has a flat collar, they're still going to pull. So the reason why they use harnesses is to obviously avoid the trachea damage here, because the dog's pulling on, you have the collar on the neck, it's just going to mess up and they're going to be coughing and choking the whole walk, right? So I understand. There are other tools out there like slip leashes, prong collars, gentle leaders, all great tools. You still get a decent amount of control with them. So like gentle leaders, we use them for our puppies again to avoid any trachea collapse damage here. Are you guys familiar with prong collars?
Not really. Mm-mm.
Do you know what they look like?
I don't think so.
Prong collars are those spiky ones. They look like spikes.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So prong collar is another great tool. We don't, just so you know, we don't offer programs with prong collar, and I'll explain later why. But prong collar is a great tool. Some clients love it. Some clients notice that when they use prong collar, the dog still doesn't care, and they override the prong collar, right? It's usually happens with our bully breeds and our like glabs and those tough working dogs, because they're just like, I don't care what's the things on my neck. I want the bird, I want the duck, or whatever it is, right? You can still teach heel, stay, sit down, come, place the prong collar, and have a good recall, but you're never going to get to the point where you can have your dog off leash, because the only way to connect with your dog, if the dog doesn't respond, is to use the prong collar, which means you would have to have a leash on, right? Sometimes with Shibas, prong collar can be too much pressure, right? So then now if comparing it to e-collar, right? You can't control the amount of pressure communicated to a dog if they decide to lunge, right? And I guess I'll talk about later as well. But e-collar, you can control how much pressure and how many levels and all these more. There's more. It's more nuanced. It's more specific to the dog. Versus prong collar, there's only one kind of level technically, right? It's a very nuanced tool. You need to learn how to apply pressure using your hand and leash communication. So it's a lot of skill to use prong collar, and sometimes owners get very not overwhelmed, but very like, it can be frustrating, right? Because you guys are dog owners, right? We're dog trainers, and we don't want to teach you to that certain level of being a dog trainer. We want to teach you as dog owners, right? So sometimes prong collar can be a little complicated for some dog owners. But again, great tool. It's just, it has a very low ceiling rate of success, right? It's pretty low, but you can still get some sort of progress, right? Which then brings me to, were you gonna say something? Sorry.
So like with the Martindale collar, is that what it's called? Martingale?
I don't know if that was the connector.
No, that's so when we,
It was like a choke collar.
yeah, it's kind of like a choke collar. And I think it's mainly because of the way his head and his neck are shaped. He can slip a collar like nothing.
Yeah. So the martingale.
So I think, does that do anything?
The martingale is basically just like a regular collar, right? Because when it closes, it's not closing all the way, versus like a slip leash. This is a very basic one here, but so the dog's head is here. If he were to pull out or try to back away, this thing is going to close, and it's going to keep closing, right? I think the martingales don't close all the way. It just closes a certain amount sometimes, I think. But usually for the martingales, it kind of just closes and doesn't stop. Like it stops, right? There's like a stopper, I think. So there's nothing wrong with martingales. It's a good collar. As long as he's safe, he's not going to slip out of anything. Usually,
I think that was the main point of that, because we were like, we could not adopt this dog without getting that specific collar, this specific harness. Like they were very, very specific. But we can do our own thing. It's our dog.
But no, that's good. They're offering you, safety backups and stuff. That's good. So those are the tools. Prong collar. The reason why it could be effective, kind of left this part out, is because of the way it's shaped. It's supposed to mimic a dog mouth or dog bite, right? The way it's shaped, right? A good prong collar has 3 plates. There's a plate in the middle and then 2 plates on the side, and all the prongs are going against each other. Okay, so when you apply pressure, it's all equal around the neck. Okay. Dogs are physical animals, right? So if Ben is at the park and there's a dog that is really bothering him, not leaving him alone, all these things, and he tries to run away because maybe that's his first response, leave the situation. But this dog keeps pursuing him. Ben might correct him. Do you guys know what a correction is?
Like just like a not a heavy duty bite, but like a lighter bite. Is that
Yes. That's normal behavior. That's how dogs communicate, because Ben can't tell the other dog off or leave it or sit. Dogs don't give each other drugs. Dogs don't neuter or spay each other. Dogs also don't put each other in timeouts. It's if you're going to do this behavior, you're going to get this consequence. That's how dogs communicate. Okay. So Prong Collar, when they were creating that tool, was to try to use dog psychology on dogs, right? And they noticed, oh, physicality, right? Because that's what it is on the neck. It's physical. Okay. Physicality is working on our dogs, right? They understand that pressure and it's quick because it's their language. That's how they communicate, right? So that's where it kind of comes from, which then brings me to e-collar, because e-collar technically is still a physical tool. How familiar are you guys with the tool electronic collars?
So I mean, I've seen people at the dog park with it, and then we were recommended to you guys from our friends Terry and David. They have a Saint Bernard, and went through the training with you guys. Gosh, 2 years ago probably.
For the
And
dog
that worked. Pilot.
Might have been Jesse's client, I think.
Yeah, it was. I think it was Jesse. And they said that it was just like so helpful because I mean that dog is massive. And also I've noticed, as far as our dog goes, with vibration and things like that, he's very responsive to all sorts of sound. Like if I use my electric toothbrush, wherever he is, he will come running.
Okay.
And he wants to see that. There's a frequency that he's hearing. There's something going on that he responds to. So that when I heard about, e-collars and the ability to do, not just shock, but vibration, right? And is there, some of them have a sound component?
Yeah, so the brand we use is called Dogtra. There are other brands out there that Jesse has used in his past, but Dogtra has gotten him the best results, and it's been really consistent. Some other brands, are the way the stimulation is delivered is different between different brands, right? Dogtra does have the pager, which is also known as a vibrate option for that remote and stuff. However, we don't use the pager. Pager doesn't have a level, right? It is just one consistent feeling. So for some reason, it's too strong, and Ben is freaking out and panicking. Now, we can't teach anything if he's panicking the whole time, right? Versus e-collar, it can be a lower, softer touch than the vibrate. So that's why we favor the stimulation part more than the vibrate. Or maybe Ben doesn't care about the vibrate. He's just like, whatever. Well, now we can't increase.
Sure. I don't know. Yeah.
Exactly right. We do use pager for like deaf dogs, right? That helps them, and for like recall and stuff like that, right? But yeah, Dogtra is the brand we use. It is a
How do you spell that?
Dogtra. Dog.
Oh, okay.
It is electric, yes, but it's not electricity, so it's not like flowing through the dog's body when we're using it. It's literally just a muscle contraction type tool. So sometimes, we had a therapist compare it to a miniature TENS unit, if you guys are familiar with that.
I am, yeah.
So it just contracts the muscle. So whatever those two contact points on the collar, whatever they're touching, is what it'll be contracting, right? The brand Dogtra, on the Dogtra brand, it has 127 levels of stimulation. Okay, in increments of 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way to 127. Okay. If you've done research, or if you looked at other options for e-collars, you might have seen 8 levels, right? Don't think we have 100 more levels than their level 8 e-collar. Their maximum level 8 and our maximum 127 are equal. Okay. They just
more variation.
Exactly. We can be way more specific to the dog's personality, the breed, scenario, right? Because as you can imagine, if you only have 8 levels, those are pretty big jumps, right? So if 5 is too much for Ben, but then 4 is too low, now we're stuck, right? Versus Dogtra, 20 is too high, 10 is too low, 15, 16, right? We can be very specific to the dog's personality and then stuff like that. Waterproof, a mile to a half-mile long range, rechargeable, you don't need batteries. Battery loss lasts a very long time when you're using it. What else about the e-collar technology stuff? Very simple to use, very easy. You might see other brands, they have like they have 8 levels, but then they have 3 main levels of low, medium, high, and then 8 in each category. And you have to change it on the remote every single time if like for emergencies, right? It's too much. Versus Dogtra, just a dial, just a button, and then it's very simple, very easy to use, right? Any questions about the tool itself before I begin talking about introducing it to Ben?
So obviously they have a whole range of products on their website. Is there a particular one that you guys like, or something like that? What do you recommend?
Yeah, so how much does he weigh?
He weighs 25 pounds now.
Oh, he's a little guy.
Yeah, he's not a big guy.
So when it comes to Shibas, I have to think about, because there's the 1900S Black Edition, there's the 1900S regular edition, and then there's also the 2300, and then there's the 280C. Okay, the 2300 is a good option if you don't care about aesthetic, right? It's more of like a it's a box, more box shaped collar, right?
Okay.
The 1900S Black Edition is not a box. It's more of like a longer, it kind of curls around the neck, so it's not bulky. Now you're gonna notice that there's a price difference, right? The Black Edition is more towards like the 300 range, and the 2300 NCP is more, I think, 230, 250. I can't really remember. You don't want the 1900S regular edition, okay? When we used that system on anxious dogs or even a Shiba, it makes them more vocal and more agitated because the stimulation for that system is a little sharper. It's more like needling, right? Versus the Dogtra 2300 and the Black Edition has more a duller feeling to it, right? So the dogs respond better, okay? Because sometimes clients will see, that 1900 Black Edition and the regular 1900S and wonder, well, why would I get the most expensive one if they're both saying 1900S, right? Well, that's why, because sometimes dogs do not do well with the 1900S regular edition, okay? So it's either going to be the Black Edition or the 2300 NCP. And also, sorry, just a heads up, my assistant Tina will send you all the links and the information as a follow-up.
Oh, okay, great.
But those are gonna be my two preferences there, the Black Edition or the 2300 NCP, okay? Any questions about that? Cool. So that's the technology. What else? Okay, cool. So when we're introducing this tool to Ben, the first thing we teach is, how to understand where the pressure comes from, when is it going to come, how it goes away, and just kind of learning just like the feeling and stuff like that, right? Because a common thought process people have about e-collar training is dog does bad behavior and then you blast them, right? That's not how it works. If it was done like that, there would be a lot of confusion, right? Because now the dog's wondering, where did it come from? When is it going to come back? What's going on, right? So before we dive into like the behavior stuff like that, we need to introduce it first with something that he is familiar with, which is walking, okay? Our version of heel, which is our walking command, is walk with me, stay with me, sit when I stop. Okay. So if I take 5 steps, he takes 5 steps. If I take 10, Ben takes 10. And when I come to a stop, he's to automatically sit with the shoulder parallel to my leg. Okay. Loose leash in any environment. I don't care, you know, how many dogs are around. That's how strict the heel needs to be. Okay. So again, we're teaching this exercise first. Obvious reason would be for the obedience, right? Having more control, getting rid of that zigzag on the walk, right? One spot, one location, easy walk. The other reason why this is important to teach is to have him understand how the pressure works, right? Having him learn, okay, if I do this behavior, the e-collar turns on. If I do this, it turns off for good. Okay. So he's learning that he is the one in control of the e-collar, right? Because Ben will never know you guys are the one pressing the button. Okay. Because sometimes owners think, you know, is my dog going to hate me because I'm electrocuting them, right? Doesn't happen because there's nothing physically connected to you and the feeling on the dog's neck. Does that make sense? Okay. So again, obedience, having him learn the pressure, where it's coming from, how it goes away. And then lastly would be to help his overstimulation. Okay. Dogs tend to need a job, and they are fulfilled with a job, right? So when we're telling him finally what to do on the walk and to not be too overwhelmed and kind of, you know, sniff this, mark here, lay down here, right? Once we give him a job, it almost like calms him down, because now he's realizing, oh, when I come out to this big, huge world, right, this is what I need to do, not figure out what I need to do for myself, right? Because then he stays stuck, right? So once we give him a job, sometimes it can help address a lot of things indirectly. So one time I had a client, their dog used to stare at shadows and glares, and they would just stare at them forever until it went away, and they would drool, they would just stay stuck, right? So I never had to address that
My
behavior.
gosh, that's crazy.
Yes, I never had to address that behavior directly.
Heard of that.
Because by class 3, right, I asked, oh, how is that shadow thing going? Because I was gonna get ready to do it in home with them, and they're like, oh, it went away on its own. Okay, because when you start to introduce structure, rules, and boundaries, right, to the walks, which dogs tend to do 3 times a day, which is a big part of their day, it relaxes the brain. Okay, so I heard some dogs are much more calmer in the home because now not only are they getting physical exercise on their walks, but they're also getting the mental exercise, because it is mentally tiring to keep the shoulder parallel to your leg for the whole walk or some of the walk, right? So it's tiring for the dog. So then they're more fulfilled when they get home. They're more tired. They're just more relaxed. What else?
Okay, that is one thing that we forgot. So I think it's a puppy thing we've been told, but we have to like cover up certain reflective surfaces and close all the blinds at night, because he will see his reflection and think it's another dog and lose his mind. So we've actually nicknamed that dog in the mirror Jens. We say it's cousin Jens. We have a silly joke about it. It doesn't happen as much as it used to. It used to happen every night, and now it happens maybe once a week.
I see.
That's part of, he generally gets sort of hyper vigilant at night, so he will wait by the hallway door in case anyone is walking through it, and he will like patrol the house sometimes.
I see.
Yeah, that may be anxiety left over from the day.
Yeah.
He gets about 4 walks a day, about 20-30 minutes each one, with hopefully almost all days gets a run in as well with other dogs.
Yeah. So that stuff's good. Keep it that way. You know, it's good to get a healthy routine and everything. As far as for like I don't know, sometimes clients call them they have a nickname when the dog kind of like gets like zoomies at night or just more intense at night. They call it something, right? We'll see how that works out once we start to introduce the style of walking and then the e-collar and stuff like that. Because again, some things might resolve on its own, some things might not, and then it's kind of like they're just communicating to me like, okay, Enrique, after this week at night he is way more calmer, but when mom leaves the house or the room, he still kind of gets amped up, and then we'll talk about that stuff separately as well. Once we teach heel, we can go ahead and dive into the recall stuff and guests coming in, so that we're kind of helping him, or we have some sort of way to communicate to him to like, hey buddy, so and so is coming over, you don't need to panic or anything about that. Any questions so far about that stuff?
So where would trainings take place?
Yeah. Are you guys thinking about in person? Perfect. Cool.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay. So for the in-person trainings, we'll, depending on the weather, because right now we do in-home training. We do at the facility training, and then we also do at Oz Park. It might be, if you're in Hyde Park, it's probably a little farther from you guys. Or how far are we from you? Do you know the distance? Because we're in like near the West Loop.
Oh, we're not, I mean, we have to go, like we have to leave our neighborhood for everything. So we can come to Oz Park. It's fine. Or to your facility. Either of those is fine. It's 20-30 minutes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, depending on the weather, when it starts to get good, we have all our sessions at Oz Park. Okay. If for some reason, we're training at Oz Park and we have a few classes and there's one particular class it's raining, we do meet at our facility, so we still have like another option in case weather doesn't accommodate for us. For the in-person program, we have 6, 9, and 12, and the 3-week program. But from everything I'm hearing, minimum, I would say 6 class bare bones, because there'll be 2 classes heel, 2 classes recall, and in-home for your guest, and then that 6th class could be saved, or we can go ahead and just teach you like another obedience command if we have time, or if that's something you're interested in. So think of a 6-week program more for clients who are like, I just want my dog to walk nice in a leash, I let him run around, I do recall, and I go home. Okay. The 9-week program are for clients who want more. So like if they want to take their dogs to like a patio and then have the dog lay down and not move for like an hour or two, right? It's more stationary control, more proofing with the commands and everything like that, right? So that's like the 9-week program. The 9-week program also offers you more wiggle room just in general, right? So it's be 2 classes heel, 2 classes recall, and in-home. So that's already 5 classes. And then 6, 7, 8, and 9. One could be a stationary control type command in the home, and then one could be like at the patio. What I mean by that stationary control in the home is more of like, are you guys familiar with the command called place?
Yeah, I mean, did you guys watch that episode I think we watched a show called It's Me or the Dog, and she was doing place. Like, yes. You're like, the dog stays on the mat or whatever. And
yes.
Yeah.
Place is a very useful command in the home when it's reliable and very consistent, right? So we can kind of do more with Ben obedience wise, right? The 12-week is for clients who want everything, right? They go hiking every other weekend. They need your dog completely be off leash trained, proofing of all commands, heel, stay, sit down, come, place. So it's a lot more or less is more time, more proofing, more commands, all these things, right? But again, minimum bare bones. If you're just trying to address the walking, the recall, and then some of the anxiety in the home and the nervousness, 6 weeks. A 9-week would be better because it's going to give you more wiggle room. And then if you're interested in like more stationary control, that's a good program as well. 12-week is if you want again like everything there. Between those 3 programs, they all work for you. It's just depending on what works for you, right? It's an hour once a week. We give you one topic at a time, you practice, we come back next class, how to go, teach you a new topic, right? And it's also all verbal instruction, right? So with the trainer does not touch the dog, right? It's all verbal communication, because at the end of the day, we know what we're doing. It's going to be you guys who are going to be walking Ben, at home and doing all these things, right? So it's important for you guys to get the hands on and having that, training tied to you from the start, right? Any questions about the in-person program?
I mean, I think in person is preferable.
Yeah, it's easier to, I guess, observe and tune how the dog is doing.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you guys want me to talk about the other programs, or are you guys pretty solid or set on the in-person?
6 to 9 sessions.
6 to 9 sessions, absolutely. We can do that.
And then you can also add some. So maybe you do the 6-week program and you're like, wow, this is great. I want to learn more. You can buy a 3-week program and then have more classes, and we can go over some stuff if you're interested.
Okay.
Any questions about that? Cool. Some common questions I get about e-collar stuff is the e-collar on all day? Is it on during night? Does a dog graduate from it? Do I still need it in the future? How does that work? Okay. The e-collar is on when you need it. Okay. So if it's just the family home for the night, you're not expecting one coming over, he's chill, we're all good, then you don't need the e-collar. At night he's sleeping, you don't need the e-collar. On your walks, the e-collar should be on. Okay. Even after you complete your program, okay? This is because we cannot predict what's going to happen on each walk we go on, right? So for example, my dog, she is 4 years old. I've started e-collar training her when she was 5 months, 6 months-ish, right? So by now, at this point, maybe like I press the button like 2 times a month, right? It's on her because she still has not experienced a car backfiring next to her. She still has not experienced a firework going off when it's not the 4th of July, right? She has still not experienced some things, but I know that if she were to get flighty or scared or spooked, or maybe I accidentally throw a ball into the street, I know I have control immediately, and I'm able to kind of calm her down or get her under control, right? So it's not so much of you constantly still needing to use it. It's more of like you have it on when you need it, and it's more like for emergencies only. Okay. Does that make sense?
It sounds great. Yeah, yeah.
The other question I get is, how come when I take the e-collar off, my dog goes back to pulling? Like, why does that happen, right? We call it, but this is it's more like a nature thing. It's called opportunistic behavior. Humans do it as well. So like the example I like to use for like my clients is, do you drive on the highway? They'll say yes. I'll say, do you go the speed limit? And they'll say no. I'm like, well, what happens when you see a cop or a squad car? And they're like, oh, we slow down. I'm like, yes, because when authority is there, or the ones who can make things happen is there, you want to like obey, right? Same thing with dogs. Some dogs are more opportunistic than others. So I've had clients come to me and tell me, hey, we didn't have the e-collar on during this walk, and the dog did great. We don't like it. The dog's just great. Okay, perfect. That's fine. I've had other clients tell me the moment the e-collar is not on, boom, right to pulling. It has nothing to do with the tool or you guys or the trainers or anything like that. That is just nature, right? If dogs know they can get away with something, they're gonna get away with it. Okay. Sounds like Ben might be more opportunistic than most dogs from what I'm hearing and everything. So it's nothing out of the ordinary. I'm just giving you a heads up that what you see there, or what you might see, is normal. Again, all dogs are different. I'm not saying he's going to be for sure a dog who's going to, know what the e-collar is on or off. But just a heads up for that stuff there. Any other questions? Cool.
I guess because there's 3 of us, so would you want all 3 of us for all of the trainings, or if only one of us could come, does that work? Like, what do you think?
No, all of you guys can attend the training, and we'll work with everyone as well. I think I had a client who brought like her 3 kids, her brother, her boyfriend, and it was like a bunch of people at Oz Park. So I'm used to it. Just having the families and all that stuff, and the children there. So the 3 of you wouldn't shouldn't be an issue or anything like that.
But if one of us couldn't join a session, is that okay?
That'll be fine. All the sessions are recorded. Okay. So for some reason, when you guys don't make it, I can just, you have the video, you can watch it, kind of catch up, and then we're all good together. Any other questions?
But we each would have to like practice with the dog separately for the dog to like understand or recognize the commands.
Yeah.
From
So
each of us.
yeah. So however life looks, right? Obviously you have the, there's, most famous have like the primary walker, secondary, and then the other one, right? Whatever life looks like is how you guys can practice, right? So but yes, everyone would have to do their rounds technically. But whenever I work with multiple people, or like couples, for example, right, partner number 1 goes first. They're doing the hard work because they're going first. They hand the dog off to partner number 2. Once they hand the dog up to partner number 2, right, sometimes I'll hear, oh, the dog's so bad with me, it's going to go really bad. I'm like, okay. And then they go, and it's easier than the first time, because if partner number 1 is using, sorry, 1 second. Get that perspective. Yes, that sounds good. Sounds good. We'll see you soon. Thank you. Thank you, bye. Sorry, the client, very later. Okay. Let's say, for example, partner number 1 is working with Ben, and their number on the system is 15. Okay. When partner number 1 hands Ben off to partner number 2, and Ben is still feeling 15, 15 still feels the same, right? So there's no he's stronger than her or she's stronger than him. It's 15 feels 15 to anyone who's handling Ben. As long as everyone's practicing the same exercises and everything, it's going to be the same thing, right? So that's like another wonderful thing about e-collar training, is that it's very easy to transfer commands and behaviors over to a new person because the feeling is still the same. Does that make sense? Cool. Any other questions?
So when he would go to the dog park or go to the doggy daycare, would he have the e-collar on there?
If you need it. So like if let's say, I had, I do prefer to have it on because one time a client told me that they were at the dog park and there was a dog fight going on and their dog was curious and they're like, what's going on over there, right? So it's more like, again, like a backup emergency. But if your dog actively doesn't have any bad behaviors like mounting or resource guarding, then it's more like a personal preference for you. As far as doggy daycare goes, that depends on the daycare. Some daycares don't use e-collars and they're not really familiar with the tool. So they'll just tell you can bring it, but we're not going to use it. So I probably wouldn't just bring it to, depending on the daycare, right? Any other questions?
No, I think like we would definitely use it at the dog park because it's very hard to get Ben to leave. Like he just doesn't, because he won't eat. It's also a command thing. So he's just going to be like, I'm just going to run and everyone else can leave, but I'm staying. And it's,
that would be a good example and good scenario to have the e-collar on so that you're not just circling around chasing Ben. But that makes sense. Any other questions?
He's really great with other dogs. Like he's beloved at the doggy daycare, both of them. The weekend one and the weekday one that we've tried out. So Hyde Bark is who we typically go to, and they have been great.
Perfect. Yeah, I heard good things about
so-
that. It's good.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Cool.
What's the schedule like, I guess, or how far out are you booking, or
Yeah,
you have
so
availability?
I'm not familiar with the schedule right now. My assistant Tina handles all that stuff. After this consultation, she's going to be reaching out to you guys. She'll send you a follow-up email with the e-class I recommended, with the prices, the programs I recommended with the prices, and then a form that needs to be signed and agreed to. Once the form is filled out and agreed to, we can go ahead and begin the billing and booking process. We work with your availability, so you'll give us some times and dates, and then we'll kind of work with that right there. But she will send you an email with a bunch of stuff and details and like stuff like that. Okay. Anything else? Cool.
We appreciate it.
So very nice meeting you guys. Nice getting a little glimpse of Ben there. But other than that, just keep a lookout for that follow-up email, and then you should be receiving it either tomorrow, Wednesday, or following day, Thursday at the latest. So just keep an eye out for that. I think I had one client who said their follow-up email went to spam. So just double check just in case you don't see it by Thursday, so check spam. But other than that, yeah, just keep a lookout for that email, and then we will be in touch. If anything does come up in the meantime, feel free to email me any other questions or anything else. Feel free to contact me. Okay.
Thanks so much.
Of course. Alrighty, guys. Have a good night.